All right, ready to dive deep into Dubai real estate. We've got a really interesting source for this one. A French investor, been in the Dubai game for over a decade, shared some awesome insights on his YouTube channel. We're here to break it down, make sense of it all, so you don't have to watch hours of YouTube videos.
Think of it as us doing the heavy lifting so you can focus on what matters, your potential investment.
Love that.
Yeah.
So, why Dubai? Out of all the places in the world to park your money, why this glittering city in the desert?
Well, Dubai's hot right now in more ways than one.
Yeah.
It's got a dynamic market growing like crazy and some really sweet tax advantages. Did you know there's no income tax there?
No income tax. That's wild.
Not only that, no property tax either, and get this, no capital gains tax.
Seriously, no taxes at all.
Pretty much a tax haven. Our French investor was really hammering that home in his video. He is comparing it to investing in France and was like, why would you even bother?
I mean, I see his point, but okay, no tax is great. But what about the prices? They must be astronomical, right?
They have been climbing, but it's still surprisingly affordable compared to other global cities. The video actually mentioned that the average price per square meter in Dubai is about the same as in Nantes, France. Can you believe that?
No way. Dubai is a major tourist hub, a global city, and it's supposed to grow like, what, 87% in the next 15 years.
Yeah, crazy, right? And here's another interesting thing about Dubai. They've got these zones called freehold zones. So you know how in some countries foreigners can't really own property outright?
Right.
Well, in Dubai's freehold zones, foreigners can own 100% of the property. Makes it a lot more attractive for international investors.
Okay, so Dubai is a tax haven with pretty decent prices, and you get full ownership rights. Sounds too good to be true? Is it too late to get in on this action?
Not necessarily. Sure, some areas have seen massive price jumps, but Dubai's still got so much room to grow. They're always building something new. And there's a ton of potential, especially in those up-and-coming neighborhoods.
So, like, which neighborhoods are we talking about?
Well, it depends what you're after. Stable rental income. Established areas like Dubai Marina, downtown Dubai, those are your go-tos. They're always popular with expats and tourists.
Got it. But what if I'm feeling a little more adventurous, looking for those high growth, potentially massive returns?
Then you want to look at those newer areas, the ones still under development. Dubai Greek Harbor, Maritime City, places like that. They're still kind of under the radar, which means lower entry prices now, but big potential as they get more popular.
Okay, I'm liking the sound of this. But let's be real, not everyone's got a ton of cash to throw around. Any options for us budget-conscious investors?
Definitely. Check out Jumeirah Village Circle, Argent. Those are great for getting started. Prices are still reasonable. Good potential for solid rental yields there.
Perfect. So there's something for everyone in Dubai, from the risk takers to the steady Eddie investors. Now let's talk about the big question. Renting long-term versus going the Airbnb route. Which strategy wins in Dubai?
Depends on you, really. How hands-on do you want to be? Our French investor, he actually had this funny story. He was torn between buying in Dubai Marina, that stable area we talked about, or Jumeirah Village Circle, a bit more up and coming. He ended up choosing Dubai Marina for long-term rentals, but he still jokes about maybe doing Airbnb in Jumeirah Village Circle.
Love that. It's like we're getting a peek inside his investment brain. So long-term, you're looking for consistent income, less day-to-day management. You sign a lease, collect your rent. Pretty straightforward. But what about Airbnb? What's the catch?
Well, it's definitely more hands-on. You've got to think about furnishing, making sure the place looks amazing. Because in Dubai, Airbnb guests expect luxury. It's not just about having a bed and a shower,
Right, you got to go all out.
Exactly. And here's a crucial detail from the video. You can't actually manage your Airbnb yourself in Dubai. Got to work with the local agency. They take care of everything, but they also take a cut, usually around 15%.
Whoa, 15%. That's a big chunk. So Airbnb in Dubai, potentially very profitable, but definitely more to think about. Okay, so now let's talk developers. I mean, Dubai's got some insane buildings like out of a sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
But how do you know who to trust? Who are the big players in the game?
Do your research. Always. Our French investor was really adamant about that. Don't just go by fancy brochures. Look into their track record, visit their completed projects. What are people saying online? Emaar, Soba, Ellington, Miraz, those are some of the names he mentioned.
Emaar, that's the one behind the Burj Khalifa.
Yeah.
Right, that's pretty impressive.
Exactly. They've got a solid reputation. But yeah, even with big names like that, it's always smart to do your homework. You want to make sure you're putting your money in the right hands. Okay, so let's shift gears a bit. Buying off-plan versus resale, what's the deal with that?
Yeah, I'm a little fuzzy on off-plan. It's like buying a property before it even exists.
Pretty much. Like pre-ordering the latest iPhone, but you're pre-ordering an apartment, you're getting in early, often
Yeah.
at a lower price, and then hopefully the value goes up while it's being built.
Sounds tempting, but risky. What if the developer runs into trouble? What if the market tanks?
Those are valid concerns. That's where RERA comes in, the Real Estate Regulatory Agency. Think of them as the referee, making sure everyone plays fair in the Dubai market. They've got really strict guidelines, protect investors from shady developers, and make sure your money's safe. One of the ways they do that is through escrow accounts.
Escrow accounts. What are those?
Basically, your money goes into this protected account and the developer can't touch it until they've hit certain milestones in the construction. That way, if they go bankrupt or something, your money's not lost.
Oh, that makes sense. So off-plan can be a smart move, but you got to be careful, choose a good developer, make sure RERA's got your back.
Exactly. And hey, you can always resell your off-plan property before completion. If the market's gone up, you can potentially lock in a profit.
Smart move. Okay, now let's talk money. The real deal. Can I even get a mortgage in Dubai as a foreigner?
Absolutely. Banks in Dubai are actually pretty open to giving mortgages to non-residents. You might have to jump through a few more hoops, maybe a higher down payment, but it's definitely doable.
Okay, what kind of interest rates are we talking? What kind of down payment?
Right now, interest rates are hovering around 4.5% to 5%. Down payments, usually 20% for residents, 30% for non-residents. Shop around, compare different banks. You might even want to work with a mortgage broker to get the best deal.
Solid advice. Okay, so I've bought my dream property in Dubai. Now what? Do I have to become a full-time landlord, dealing with tenants and leaky faucets, or can I hand it off to someone else?
You've got options. You can manage it yourself, be the hands-on landlord, or you can outsource it to a property management company. They'll handle everything for you, finding tenants, collecting rent, fixing stuff, all that jazz.
That sounds amazing, but I bet it costs a pretty penny.
Convenience comes at a price. Property management companies usually charge a percentage of the rent, somewhere around 5%.
Okay, so there's a trade-off. I got to weigh the cost versus the convenience. Now, before we move on, there are a few things from the video I wanted to touch on. First up, Dubai and climate change. I mean, it's a desert city, super hot, got to be a concern, right?
Yeah, it is. But our investor pointed out that Dubai is actually taking sustainability pretty seriously. They're investing a lot in renewable energy, green building technology, trying to be carbon neutral by 2050.
Carbon neutral? That's ambitious.
Right. It's not just about glitz and glamour. They're actually thinking about the future.
Okay, good to know. They're not just burying their heads in the sand, literally.
Yeah.
Another thing he mentioned was protection against unfinished projects. I mean, that's every investor's nightmare. You put all your money into something and it just stops.
Right. That's where RERA steps in again. Remember those escrow accounts. They make sure your money's protected if a developer goes bankrupt or a project gets stalled.
Okay, so RERA is kind of like the insurance policy for investors.
Exactly. Now, this next one might be a bit much for some investors, but he talked about using holding companies.
Holding companies. What's that all about?
It's basically setting up a separate company to own your property. It can be good for protecting your assets, sometimes even for tax reasons. Like if you get sued, your personal assets are shielded because they're not directly tied to the property.
Okay, so it's a more advanced strategy, but it can be beneficial in certain situations.
Exactly. Not for everyone, but good to know about. Now let's talk visas. What are the options for someone who wants to, not just invest in Dubai, but actually live there?
Well, they've got investor visas specifically for people buying property. It basically lets you live in Dubai based on your investment.
So I can just buy my way into residency.
It's not quite that easy. You need to invest a certain amount, usually at least 750,000 dirhams, I think he said.
Okay, so not chump change, but potentially worth it.
Right. But it's also important to remember, a visa doesn't automatically make you a tax resident. You might still have to pay taxes in your home country. It gets complicated, the whole tax residency thing. Definitely worth talking to an expert about that. Right, good point. Okay, so what happens if you can't keep up with your mortgage payments? I mean, it happens, life throws curveballs. What are the consequences in Dubai?
Not pretty. Our investor was very clear about that. If you default, the developer can repossess your property.
Oof, that's scary.
Yeah, it is. So, do your homework, plan your finances carefully, and if you see trouble ahead, talk to the developer ASAP.
Okay, good advice. Now for some good news. He mentioned that properties in Dubai come with a 10-year warranty.
Yes. Covers major structural defects. So if your building starts sinking, you're covered.
That's amazing.
Yeah, peace of mind, right. But it might not cover everything, little things, wear and tear. Read the fine print, like always.
Makes sense. Okay, last question. Do I have to learn Arabic to invest in Dubai?
No need. English is pretty much the language of business there.
Oh,
Contracts, communication, everything's in English.
relief. So, my basic Arabic is enough to get by?
Definitely. But if you're not comfortable with English, you can always work with someone who can translate, make sure you understand everything you're signing.
Makes sense. Okay, so big picture time. Dubai, it's constantly changing, evolving. What are the key trends we need to be aware of, the things that will shape the real estate market in the future?
Well, Dubai's economy is booming, attracting tons of expats. That's driving the housing demand. Plus, they're trying to position themselves as a global hub, finance, tech, tourism, all that. Lots of foreign investment pouring in.
So, good news for real estate investors.
Potentially, yeah. But always remember, real estate is cyclical. There will be ups and downs, so you got to be in it for the long haul.
Right, it's not a get-rich-quick scheme.
Exactly.
All right, so let's do a quick recap. Dubai versus other big cities. How does it stack up?
Well, prices are definitely rising, but it's still a good deal compared to places like Paris, London, New York. Plus, you've got those tax benefits, and the lifestyle in Dubai is hard to beat.
Sunshine, beaches, safety. Sounds pretty tempting. But of course, like any investment, there are risks. Got to do your due diligence, all that good stuff.
Absolutely.
All right, so we've covered a ton of ground here, exploring the ins and outs of Dubai real estate. But one question lingers. How will Dubai's vision of becoming a global hub, combined with its push for sustainability, impact the future of its real estate? That's something to ponder.
It is, and that's where we'll pick up in the next part of our deep dive. We'll be looking at the potential returns, comparing Dubai to other hotspots, giving you all the info you need to make a smart decision.
Can't wait. Stay tuned, folks.
Welcome back to our Dubai real estate deep dive. You ready for more?
Oh, absolutely. My head's already spinning with all this info, but in a good way.
Good, because we're just getting started.
You know, before we jump into the next topic, I just remembered something from that investor's video that kind of stuck with me.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
He mentioned that you can't actually manage your own Airbnb in Dubai. Like, it's illegal or something.
Yeah, you got it. It's mandatory to work with a local agency. They handle everything. Bookings, communication with guests, all that.
Interesting. So it's not as simple as just listing your property on Airbnb and calling it a day.
Nope, not in Dubai. You need a licensed agency, and they usually take a cut, around 15% of your earnings.
15%? Wow. That's a big chunk to give up.
It is, but you got to think of it as the cost of doing business in Dubai. It's a different market, different rules, and honestly, having a local agency can be helpful, especially if you're not living there yourself.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so Airbnb in Dubai, higher potential returns, but also higher costs and more regulations.
Yeah.
Got it. Now let's talk about something that always makes me a bit nervous when it comes to real estate investing, especially overseas. What happens if the developer goes bust? Like you've invested all this money and then the project just stops. What then?
That's definitely a valid concern. But luckily, Dubai has a pretty good system in place to protect investors. Remember we talked about RERA, the Real Estate Regulatory Agency?
Right, the watchdog.
Yeah.
But how do they actually, prevent that kind of nightmare scenario?
Well, one of their key tools is escrow accounts. So when you buy off-plan, remember, you're paying for a property that's not built yet. Your money goes into this special escrow account that's controlled by RERA. The developer can only access that money as they hit certain milestones in the construction process.
Oh, so it's like a safeguard. My money's not just sitting there vulnerable if the developer runs into trouble.
Exactly. It's a way to make sure your investment is protected and the developer is actually delivering what they promised.
Wow, that's really reassuring. Okay, so RERA and escrow accounts, those are like my safety net in the Dubai market.
You got it. And speaking of protecting your investments, our investor also touched upon something called holding companies. Have you ever heard of those?
Vaguely, but honestly, it sounds a bit complicated.
It can be, yeah. But basically, a holding company is a separate company you set up specifically to own your assets. In this case, your real estate investments in Dubai.
Okay, so it's like creating a separate legal entity just for my properties. But why would I do that? What's the benefit?
A few reasons, actually. Asset protection is a big one. Let's say something goes wrong, you get sued or something. Your personal assets are protected because they're not directly tied to the property. It's like a firewall between your personal finances and your investments.
Oh, I see. So if something happens with the property, my personal stuff, like my house and savings, are safe.
Exactly. It's an extra layer of protection, which can be really valuable, especially when you're investing in a foreign country.
Okay, that makes sense. Are there any other advantages to using a holding company?
Yeah, sometimes there can be tax benefits. Depending on your situation and the tax laws in your home country and Dubai, using a holding company might help you optimize your taxes. It can get a bit complicated, but it's something to consider, especially if you have a larger portfolio.
Right. So holding companies, not for everyone, but definitely worth exploring if you're serious about real estate investing in Dubai.
Agreed. Okay, let's switch gears and talk about visas. I mean, Dubai is a melting pot of cultures, tons of expats living there. What are the options for someone who wants to, not just invest in property, but actually make Dubai their home?
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Is it easy for foreigners to get residency in Dubai?
Well, they've got these investor visas specifically designed for people buying property there. It basically gives you the right to live in Dubai based on your investment.
So it's like buy a property, get a visa, enjoy the Dubai lifestyle.
Kind of, yeah. But it's
Yeah.
not as simple as just snapping your fingers. There are investment thresholds you have to meet. I think our investor said you need to invest at least 750,000 dirhams to be eligible.
Okay, so it's a significant investment, but it could be worth it for the right person. But just to be clear, a visa doesn't automatically make you a tax resident of Dubai, right?
Exactly. That's a really important distinction. You might still have to pay taxes in your home country depending on how many days you spend in each place, where your income comes from, all sorts of factors. It can get really complex.
All right, the good old tax residency dilemma, definitely something to discuss with a professional.
Absolutely. Always best to get expert advice when it comes to taxes. Okay, let's talk about a less glamorous but equally important topic, defaulting on payments. What happens if you can't keep up with your mortgage payments in Dubai?
Oof, that's a scary thought. But it's a reality for some people, so we got to talk about it, right?
Yeah, definitely. Our investor was pretty upfront about this in his video. He said that if you default on your mortgage payments in Dubai, the developer has the right to repossess your property.
So you could lose everything you've invested.
Yeah, it's a risk you got to be aware of. That's why it's so important to plan your finances carefully, make sure you can comfortably afford the mortgage payments. And if you do run into trouble, the best thing to do is talk to the developer right away. Don't wait until it's too late.
Right, open communication is key. Maybe they can work something out, a payment plan or something.
Exactly. Okay, let's end this section on a more positive note. Did you know that all properties in Dubai come with a 10-year warranty?
A 10-year warranty. Seriously.
Yep. It usually covers major structural defects. So if your building starts to lean or cracks appear in the walls, the developer is responsible for fixing it.
Wow, that's a huge peace of mind. Especially when you're investing in a property that's, potentially thousands of miles away.
Exactly. It's a good sign that Dubai's real estate market is well regulated and that they take investor protection seriously.
I love that. Okay, I have to ask this because it's been on my mind. Do I need to learn Arabic to invest in Dubai? I mean, it's a different culture, different language. It can be a bit intimidating.
Don't worry, you don't need to be fluent in Arabic to navigate the Dubai real estate market. English is widely spoken there, especially in business circles. All the contracts, all the communication, it's usually all in English.
Phew, that's a relief. So my basic hello and thank you in Arabic will suffice.
Totally. But hey, if you're ever unsure about something, it's always a good idea to work with a local agent or lawyer who can translate and make sure you understand everything clearly.
Great advice. Now let's zoom out a bit. Dubai, it's a city that's constantly evolving, growing at an incredible pace. What are the key economic and demographic trends that are shaping the real estate market right now? What should investors be paying attention to?
Well, for one, Dubai's economy is on fire right now. It's attracting tons of expats, highly skilled professionals, entrepreneurs, all looking for opportunities. And all those people need somewhere to live, right?
Right. So more people, more demand for housing. That's got to be good for property values.
Exactly. It's a classic supply and demand situation. And on top of that, Dubai is really pushing to become a global hub for finance, technology, tourism, all these key industries. That attracts even more investment, more businesses, more people, which further fuels the real estate market.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more Dubai grows and develops, the more attractive it becomes for investors, which further fuels the growth.
Precisely. It's a really dynamic market, and it's only going to get more exciting in the coming years.
I'm loving this. Okay, let's get back to the nitty-gritty of actually owning a property in Dubai. Let's say I've bought my dream apartment or villa. What's the process for renting it out? How do I find tenants, manage the property, all that?
Well, the rental process in Dubai is Pretty straightforward, thankfully. They've got a well-regulated system in place. You'll typically work with a real estate agent who will handle everything for you. They'll advertise the property, find tenants, screen them, draw up the contracts, all that good stuff.
So the agent's like my one-stop shop for everything rental related.
Pretty much. They make the whole process a lot easier, especially if you're not living in Dubai yourself. And once you've found a tenant, you'll sign a standard lease agreement. It's called an ajari in Dubai. It's all very official, registered with the authorities.
Okay, so it's a formal process that protects both the landlord and the tenant.
Exactly. And then, once you have a tenant in place, you have two options. Manage the property yourself or hire a property management company.
We talked about that a bit earlier. But can we dig a little deeper into the pros and cons of each approach?
Sure. So self-management, it gives you more control. You're the one making all the decisions, dealing directly with the tenant, and you don't have to pay those management fees.
Right, more control, more potential profit,
Right.
but also more work.
Right, exactly. You're responsible for collecting rent, handling any maintenance issues, dealing with any tenant complaints. It can be time-consuming, especially if you're not living in Dubai.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So for someone who's maybe living in another country or just doesn't have the time or inclination to be a hands-on landlord, a property management company seems like a good option.
Definitely. They take care of everything for you, from finding tenants to handling repairs. They're like your eyes and ears on the ground.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
But like you said, there's a cost involved.
Right. They usually charge a percentage of the rent, usually around 5%.
Okay, so it's a trade-off. Convenience versus cost. I got to weigh my options. Now, speaking of costs, what about insurance? What kinds of insurance should I be thinking about as a real estate investor in Dubai?
Well, the two main ones are property insurance and liability insurance. Property insurance protects your investment against, damage from things like fire, floods, theft. Liability insurance protects you if someone gets injured on your property and decides to sue you.
Okay, so those are essential, especially as a foreign investor. You want to make sure you're covered in case something goes wrong.
Absolutely. Better safe than sorry. Okay, let's talk about the resale market in Dubai. I mean, it's a transient city, lots of people coming and going. How easy is it to sell a property there if you need to?
Yeah, liquidity is important. You don't want to be stuck with a property you can't get rid of.
Right. Well, the good news is that Dubai has a pretty active resale market, especially for properties in those prime locations like Dubai Marina, downtown Dubai. There's always demand from international buyers.
So if I need to sell, I'm likely to find a buyer.
Most likely, yeah. But of course, it depends on the property, the price, the condition, all that. But generally speaking, it's not too difficult to resell a property in Dubai.
Okay, that's good to know. What about selling a property with an existing tenant? Is that a headache?
It can be, yeah. You have to respect the tenant's lease agreement, their legal rights. You can't just kick them out because you want to sell.
Right, that makes sense. So it's something to keep in mind if you're planning to sell in the short term.
Exactly. Okay, let's move on to something that can be a bit daunting for international investors. Opening a bank account in Dubai. Is that a complicated process?
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Do I need to fly over there in person?
Yeah.
Jump through a million hoops?
It's not as bad as you might think. Our investor said it's actually pretty straightforward, but you do need the right documents. Passport, proof of residency in your home country, recent bank statements. If you're self-employed, you might need some extra stuff like proof of income.
Okay, so it's basically a standard KYC, know your customer process, like opening a bank account anywhere else.
Pretty much. And once you have a bank account in Dubai, it makes managing your real estate investments much easier. You can pay your bills, receive rental income, all that good stuff.
Makes sense. Okay, before we wrap up this part, I wanted to ask about something called an expression of interest. I've seen that term thrown around, but I'm not really sure what it means.
Ah, yes. EOIs, those are big in Dubai's off-plan market. Basically, it's a way for buyers to express their interest in a project before it's officially launched.
So it's like getting your name on the list early.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're essentially reserving your spot in line, often with a refundable deposit. It's a way to increase your chances of snagging a unit in a popular project, especially in those sought-after locations where things sell out quickly.
Ah, so it's a strategic move for serious buyers. Got it. Wow, we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive. I'm starting to feel like a Dubai real estate pro.
Well, you're well on your way. We've talked about everything from managing your property and understanding the legal framework to navigating the banking system and exploring those advanced strategies like holding companies.
And we've uncovered some really valuable insights from our French investor friend.
He's definitely given us a lot to think about. And in the final part of our deep dive, We'll be looking at the potential returns on investment, comparing Dubai to other global hotspots, and giving you some final thoughts to help you make a smart, informed decision.
Can't wait. Stay tuned, folks. This is where it gets really interesting. Okay, we're back, ready to wrap up our Dubai real estate deep dive. We've covered a ton of ground already, the neighborhoods, the strategies, the legal stuff. Now, let's talk numbers. What kind of costs am I looking at if I actually decide to buy a place in Dubai?
Well, you got to factor in those extra fees and taxes, right?
Right.
Our French investor, he was really transparent about all that. Biggest expense, the transfer fee, it's 4% of the purchase price. So if your property's $1 million dirhams, you're paying 40,000 dirhams just to transfer the ownership.
Ouch, that's a lot. Anything else?
Usually agency fees, if you're buying on the secondary market, that's about 2% of the price.
Okay, so another couple percent there. And then what about just like administrative fees, paperwork stuff?
Yeah, you got those too. Registering the property, it's around 1,000 dirhams.
Okay, so not a huge amount, but still, got to keep track of all those little things.
Exactly. It all adds up.
All right, so we've talked costs. Now let's talk the good stuff, the potential returns. Rental yields in Dubai. What can investors realistically expect?
Dubai's known for good rental yields, but it really depends on the area, the type of property, all that. Our investor said that prime areas, Dubai Marina, downtown Dubai, you can expect net yields around 6% to 8% per year.
That's not bad at all, especially compared to a lot of other places. But those prime areas, I'm guessing the rents are pretty high there too, right?
They are, but the demand is high too. Lots of expats, tourists, they all want to live in those fancy areas.
Makes sense. What about short-term rentals, Airbnb and all that? Is that a good strategy in Dubai?
Potentially, yeah. Our investor, he said you could hit yields of 10% to 15% with short-term rentals, but, more work involved. Got to furnish the place, keep it looking top-notch. Remember those agency fees?
Right, it's not passive income.
Nope, definitely not.
Okay, so rental yields, we've got that. But what about capital appreciation? Will my property actually go up in value over time?
Historically, Dubai's done really well on that front, especially in those newer areas, still developing, lots of potential there. Our investor, he was really excited about Dubai Creek Harbor, thinks it's going to be huge.
So it's a long-term game, but if you're patient, there's a good chance you'll see a nice return on your investment.
Yeah, that's the idea. But remember, real estate, it's cyclical. There will be ups and downs. You got to be prepared for that.
Right, it's not a guaranteed thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's compare. Dubai versus other big global cities. How does it measure up? Like Paris, London, New York, those kinds of places.
Well, prices in Dubai have gone up, but it's still pretty affordable in terms of price per square meter. Remember, we talked about that. Dubai's comparable to Nantes, France.
Yeah, that blew my mind. Then Dubai's got that wow factor, all those incredible buildings, the luxury lifestyle. I just assumed it would be way more expensive.
That's the perception, but it's actually a pretty good deal compared to those super expensive cities. Plus, you've got the tax advantages in Dubai.
Right. No income tax, no property tax, no capital gains tax. That's a huge plus.
Exactly. And then there's the lifestyle. Sunshine, beaches, it's safe, clean, everything's super modern.
It's hard to argue with that. Okay, so Dubai's got a lot going for it. Affordability, tax benefits, amazing lifestyle, a booming economy. But like any investment, there are risks. Got to be smart about it.
Absolutely. Do your research, choose carefully, get some good advice.
All right, so before we officially close out this deep dive, let's revisit that big question, the one that really gets us thinking. How will Dubai's vision for the future, this idea of becoming a global hub, and their focus on sustainability, how will all that impact real estate investments in the long run? What do you think?
Well, I think it's pretty clear that Dubai is on an upward trajectory. They're ambitious, they're innovative, they're thinking long-term. And that's attractive to investors. It creates a sense of confidence, stability, and that translates into higher property values.
Yeah, it's like investing in a city that's constantly pushing the boundaries, creating something new and exciting.
Exactly. And as long as they can manage the risks, the challenges like climate change, water scarcity, all that, I think Dubai's real estate market has a bright future.
Well said. It's definitely given us a lot to think about. We've gone deep, exploring the ins and outs of Dubai real estate, the costs, the potential returns, the legal stuff, the lifestyle, the big picture trends. Hopefully you're feeling more informed, more confident about making a decision.
That's the goal. Whether you decide to invest in Dubai or not, we hope this deep dive has given you a valuable perspective on this fascinating and dynamic market.
Absolutely. And there you have it, folks, another deep dive complete. We'll be back soon with more explorations, more insights, more topics that matter to you. Until then, happy investing and keep those questions coming. We love diving deep with you.